Hello and welcome back to NewsX. I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching Focal Length, a show where we take an in-depth look at the most pressing political and economic issues defining our world today. In this episode, we will understand the harsh realities of climate change and how the world can transition to green energy. We stand at a significant moment in history where the need for sustainable solutions has never been more urgent. We are joined by Bernt Skeie. He is the founding CEO of Michelsen Energy Advisors, which is a leading expert in the green energy sector. With a long history in founding innovative green energy companies like Alma Clean Power in Norway, Mr. Skeie has played a key role in driving sustainable energy solutions. Today, we will look into the global shift towards green energy. We will also discuss the challenges and opportunities within the hydrogen value chain and the future of green energy as a whole. Bernt Skeie, thank you for joining us on Focal Length today. My first question to you is, let's start by talking about your impressive career and efforts in the green energy sector. You founded Alma Clean Power and numerous other green energy programs in Norway. Can you share with us which green energy sectors you've worked in throughout your long career?
I started in the clean tech 12 years ago in what was called Prototech, owned by the research institute, Michelsen Research. So I've been working with energy tech and clean tech solutions, both on towards space actually, and the ocean space, also looking at carbon capture technologies and fuel cells, high temperature, low temperature, PEM, and also of course solid oxide fuel cells, which is very much the basis for what we've been doing in Alma Clean Power.
Speaking about green energy companies, since you have founded and led many of them, what is your perspective on the growing adoption of green energy solutions by world economies?
Yeah, I didn't mention earlier, but of course I also co-founded Greenstat 10 years ago, and we've been following the clean hydrogen space for these 10 years, and we've seen a lot of developments. So the last year has been troublesome in many ways all over the world, I think. But still, of course, the need for reduced emissions and the need for clean technology, clean fuels is absolutely still there. So I think the pendulum is kind of going to one end now, particularly maybe here where I'm in Norway. I think with 85% of the investments are still going into oil and gas. This is quite different, of course, from the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. But still, it's been a hard time, I think, for many companies scaling the technology. And we've found problems in the value chain and also, of course, in the offtake on some of these projects. So it's, I guess it's a cold shower for some people, but still now it's the future. It still looks bright. I think it's going to come back and has to come back because the world needs it.
Mr. Skeie, you mentioned that it is a hard time for green energy companies. Having said that, how supportive, according to you, has the Norwegian government been in providing the much needed impetus to green energy companies?
Norway has quite a lot of different funding schemes for early stage companies, and a lot of companies get the chance to try out and test new technologies, and there is a lot of innovation in the different technology clusters in Norway, and there is good collaboration also on the maritime side, particularly, I think, in developing new technologies. The problem is always the same, I think. It's when you go to scaling, finding the capital and the investors who are willing to take the next steps when you're going to take this from just a prototype and early stage technologies into some large scale products and going out there. Then in many cases, we see that is where the funding from both the government and the investor side is slow. And this is basically also some of the reason why I now started Michelsen Energy Advisors. This is actually a platform where we plan to do exactly that, to match scale-ups, companies in need of funding, with all the technical experts needed to solve their operational issues and also to bring in the investors and the industrials who would like to invest in these new technologies. So this is something that I see is going to make a big difference for the companies here, and it could really, well, somehow the valley of death is what we're talking about. It could be transformed if we make this platform work the way we think now. So it's quite excited to be part of this, and it's ongoing right now. And together with my partner Silje Grønning in London, we are looking to get this moving, well, as we speak.
One of the most talked about topics in green energy is the scaling of the hydrogen value chain. In your opinion, what are the key challenges in this area?
Yeah, on the hydrogen value chain, also looking at ammonia and everything, there are many parts of this. It's the production itself, of course, and the availability of parts and the fuel cells and just the basics to build the system. This is a challenge in many ways, to have enough fuel cell stacks available to this, or electrolyzer stacks. It's coming along now with different types and different producers bringing new solutions into the market, but it's still early days, and it needs to scale. And also, of course, once you have produced the hydrogen or the ammonia, then it needs to be transported. So, of course, the energy density of these is not as good as the traditional fuels. So it's complicated with the compression, also with the liquefaction of gases to move this around. So that's transport is also something. And then, of course, the offtake, making sure that there are uses for this around, and that it's used in the best place. Talking about shipping, I know, of course, like all the carbon neutral fuels that they are now planning for 2030 is, well, if you're going to make the maritime industry net zero, I think they will need all of that available fuel for shipping alone, and shipping is only like 3% of the total emissions of the world. So you have some challenges in bringing this up, but of course, I see in some countries this really coming along, and I think that they're all possible to overcome. Building the green value chains, of course, it all needs a lot of collaboration between the different parts of the value chain, and it needs to be a strategy behind it, where both the incentives given, and the funding schemes are in place. The industrial players are all who want to do this, and you can plan it in the best way from the cost efficiency side of this, because always bringing new technology is expensive, and it takes more time than we expect. So with LNG, it took quite a couple of decades before you have coverage of the most important ports and harbors around the world. With the hydrogen, especially liquid hydrogen, compressed, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but ammonia is something that's been handled for many years, and even though it's toxic, it's still doable. So I think, and many with me believe, that ammonia is going to play quite an important part of this scaling of the hydrogen technology, the industry, sorry.
Now that we've discussed the challenges, let's shift our focus to the solutions. In your view, what holistic approaches should we take to effectively tackle these challenges?
I think we need coordinated efforts among industries, governments and research institutions and innovative companies to address these challenges. And also policy frameworks is quite important. The way, at least for shipping, with the IMO and now the EU fuel, this is stuff that will be very important to bring together. And also the investments in R&D needs to continue and to develop these technologies further. and all over just creating sustainable practices. So making this sustainable business for all parties of the value chain altogether. So it's going to require quite a lot of coordination and a clear strategy for this. I feel that policy and regulation have been very important so far, and they will continue to be so. And of course, the questions you asked about incentives. There's so much going on now in the US and Europe and in Asia, China. So it's very difficult to predict exactly what is needed, but some kind of coordinated efforts between the industries, the innovators, and also the governments will be needed.
Moving now onto the global stage, COP29 last year highlighted the importance of supporting developing nations in their transition to sustainable energy solutions. With so many countries still relying on traditional energy sources, what do you think are the most effective ways to help nations make the shift towards greener alternatives?
For developing countries, the good thing is that you don't have a lot of history, a lot of expensive and infrastructure in place and everything that you need to take into account. You could go for the newest tech and keep it as clean as possible. So I believe, of course, with the way you can see that solar and wind, the costs have come down considerably over the years, and producing the renewable power from that, and then placing, hydrogen electrolysis systems or ammonia production, e-fuels, biofuels in strategic locations instead of building new and very expensive power grids and so forth, is an opportunity that the developing countries can have. And of course, I was the chairman of Green Start, and we wrote the roadmap for hydrogen for India. So India has really taking this on and becoming self-reliant on renewables and using then the hydrogen as a means to distribute this power, this clean power to different parts of the country. I think it's a very good example of what could be done if you just apply knowledge, pick the best technologies where the cost has come down, and apply it to your needs, your local needs. Whether it's off-grid solutions or power, power for transportation or for industry or for homes.
Recently, US President Donald Trump rolled back EV incentives to support auto manufacturers. What impact do you think this will have on the global energy transition, and do you foresee other Western countries following suit?
Yeah, it's a good question. Where I'm situated in Bergen, Hordaland, is actually almost 100% of all new vehicles for the last couple of years have been electric vehicles. So this has all to do with the incentives given from the government, both for tolls, tariffs, where you can drive, and so forth. So what Trump is doing is certainly going to have an impact, but whether everybody else is going to follow suit, this is, for me, unclear. I follow mostly the maritime side, and I follow that closely. But of course, transportation, it's all connected, so it will have an influence somehow. But I have seen at least the European car producers, such as BMW, are still looking into hydrogen and on that side, and batteries are becoming increasingly inexpensive, and also the range of all these electric vehicles is going to be there. So I think that the batteries and EVs have come to stay, and it's going to be just the economy of it all that's kind of pushing this, and also with the product itself. But Trump is, of course, going to influence many parts of development in green technologies and fuels.
To finish off, what's your vision for the future of green energy? Which sectors do you believe will experience the most significant changes and growth in the years to come?
Yeah, no, of course, I have a a very positive outlook on the green energy. It has to come, and it will come, and the curves that we see from solar and the cost curves are going to come down the same way for the other technologies. Both batteries are already there, but fuel cells, PEM fuel cells, high temperature fuel cells, but solid oxide fuel cells also. It's all about volume. So when the scale is there, the value chain is in place, we're going to see dramatic falls in cost. And when you see then that the efficiency of these solutions are twice what you have in traditional ICE combustion engines, I'm sure that these technologies will come into play and make a real leap towards the 2050 net zero goal. So which industries, of course, I think all industries are going to be affected by the green energy or the energy transition. But of course, maritime and also aerospace is going to be important, and heavy duty vehicles, I think, is going to be very much impacted in the next round. But of course, this is also going to play a major role in all industry production facilities and around the world. I think it's going to be, we're all going to be impacted, basically. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Skeie, for joining us on Focal Length. With that, it's a wrap for this episode. For more international news, stay tuned to NewsX.